Yo, what's good, y'all? It's the Carolina Kid here to do again what y'all hate doing. I know, I'm talking about reading. Yeah, what's up, y'all? I'm still into this right here, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families. And I actually got to backtrack a little bit. We got to come back into chapter 1. I know we in chapter 2, but like I said, we got to step back a little bit because there was a section I missed. And I feel like this is some good stuff that I must go over with y'all. This section right here is the primary laws of love. So I'm getting ready to get right into it. In this chapter, we've taken a look at 5 significant deposits you can proactively and immediately begin to make into the emotional bank accounts of the members of your family. The reason these deposits create such a powerful difference in the family culture is that they are based on the primary laws of love, laws which reflect the reality that love in its purest form is unconditional. There are 3 such laws: acceptance rather than rejection, understanding rather than judgment, and participation rather than manipulation. Living these laws is a proactive choice that is not based on another's behavior or on social status, educational attainment, wealth, reputation, or any other factor except the intrinsic worth of a human being. These laws are the foundation of a beautiful family culture because only when we live the primary laws of love do we encourage obedience to the primary laws of life, such as honesty, responsibility, integrity, and service. Sometimes when people are struggling with a loved one and doing everything they can to lead that person toward what they feel is a responsible course, it's very easy to fall into the trap of living the secondary or counterfeit laws of love, judgment, rejection, and manipulation. They love the end in mind more than they love the person. They love conditionally. In other words, they use love to manipulate and control. As a result, others feel rejected and fight to stay the same. But when you deeply accept and love people as they are, you actually encourage them to become better. By accepting people, you're not condoning their weakness or agreeing with their opinion. You're simply affirming their intrinsic worth. You're acknowledging that they think or feel in a particular way. You're freeing them of the need to defend, protect, and preserve themselves. So instead of wasting their energy defending themselves, they're able to focus on interacting with their own conscience and unleashing their growth potential. By loving people unconditionally, you unleash their natural power to become their better self. And you can only do this when you separate the person from the behavior and believe in the unseen potential. Just consider how valuable this perspective would be when dealing with a family member, particularly a child, who is filled with negative energy or who has gone off track for a period of time. What would happen if, rather than labeling this child based on current behavior, you were to affirm the unseen potential and love unconditionally instead? As God, they said, treat a man as he is, and he will remain as he is. Treat a man as he can and should be, and he will become as he can and should be. I once had a friend who was a dean of a very prestigious school. He planned and saved for years to provide his son with the opportunity to attend that institution. But when the time came, the boy refused to go. This deeply concerned his father. Graduating from that particular school would have been a great asset to the boy. Besides, it was a family tradition. 3 generations of attendants preceded the boys. The father talked and urged and pleaded. He also tried to listen to the boy, to understand him, all the while hoping that his son would change his mind. He would say, "Son, can't you see what this means for your life? You can't base long-range decisions on short-range emotions." The son would respond, "You don't understand. It's my life. You just want me the way you want me. I don't even know if I want to go to college at all." The father would come back with, "Not at all, son. You're the one who doesn't understand. I only want what is best for you. Stop being so foolish." The subtle message being communicated was one of conditional love. The son felt that in a sense, the father's desire for him to attend the school outweighed the value he placed on him as a person and as a son, which was terribly threatening. Consequently, he fought for and with his own identity and integrity, and he increased his resolve and his efforts to rationalize his decision not to go. After some intense soul searching, the father decided to make a sacrifice, to renounce conditional love. He knew that his son might choose differently from what he wished. Nevertheless, he and his wife resolved to love their son unconditionally, regardless of his choice. It was an extremely difficult thing to do because the value of his educational experience was so close to their hearts and because it was something that they had planned and worked for since his birth. The father and mother went through a very difficult rescripting process, proactively using all four gifts and struggling to understand the nature of unconditional love. They eventually felt it deep inside and they communicated to the boy what they had done and why. They told him that they had come to the point at which they could say in all honesty that his decision would not affect their feeling of unconditional love toward him. They didn't do this to manipulate him, to use backhand psychology to try to get him to shape up. They did it as the emergent extension of their own growth in character. The boy didn't give much of a response, but his parents had such a mindset and heart set of unconditional love at that point that it would have made no difference in their feelings for him. About a week later, he told his parents that he had decided not to go. They were perfectly prepared for his response and continued to show unconditional love for him. Everything was settled and life went along normally. A short time later, an interesting thing happened. Now that the boy no longer felt he had to defend his position, he searched within himself more deeply and found that he really did want to have this educational experience. He applied for admission and then he told his father, who again showed unconditional love by fully accepting his son's decision. Our friend was happy, but not excessively so, because he had truly learned to love without condition. Because these parents lived the primary laws of love, their son was able to search his own heart and choose to live in harmony with one of the primary laws of life involving growth and education. Many people who have never received unconditional love and have never developed a sense of intrinsic worth struggle all their lives for approval and recognition. To compensate for the impoverished, empty, hollow feeling they have inside, they borrow strength from a position of power, status, money, possessions, credentials, or reputation. They often become very narcissistic, interpreting everything personally. And their very behavior is so distasteful that others reject them, throwing fuel on the fire. That's why these primary laws of love are so important. They affirm the basic worth of the individual. And people who have been loved unconditionally are then free to develop their own strength through integrity to their own inner compass. Wow, see, that right there is most definitely the dope that you need to be addicted to right there. The primary laws of love. I told you I had to go back. There's no way I could skip over that part. I had to go back and read that. And now let me recap it a little bit. First thing I want to talk about is the unconditional love. And we must remember that love in its rawest form, y'all, it is unconditional. I mean, it's the fact of the love that you have for someone or something, whatever that love may be, it needs to be unconditional. It needs to be just because. No other reason should it be, because what if that reason changes? Will you still love them unconditionally? That's a question that we got to ask ourselves. Another thing I wanted to speak on were the 3 laws that it talked about. The first one was acceptance rather than rejection, which is a big one. You know, we can't allow our minds to create such a tunnel vision that we reject the things that are worth accepting. You know, there's an old saying that says, don't be so busy driving that you forget to stop and get gas. Like, it's important. It's important. You got to have it. We have to be willing to accept. The next law it's talked about was understanding rather than judgment. showing empathy, and don't be so quick to speak on someone's situation. From a hindsight point of view or from the outside looking in, things always seem simpler. But we have to be careful, with what we say out of our mouths. So think about that before you hand out a half-hearted or some half-minded advice that's supposed to be criticism, but it's far from constructive. We got to be careful with what we say. And the third thing that it spoke on was participation rather than manipulation. Do your part, do it well, and with the right agenda attached to it. It's okay if you're not in control. If that is not your assigned role at the time, please stay in your lane. Like it's important. Run your lane and don't do no swerving. Stay in your lane straight. It's major that we participate instead of manipulate. And the last thing that I want to speak on is that we need to always remember that we're choosing something. We're making a choice on something. So, and whether it's intentional or unintentional, we're making that choice. So if you're choosing to accept, that means you're choosing not to reject. Vice versa. If you're not choosing to accept, that means you're choosing to reject. So, and the same thing goes with understanding. If you're choosing to understand, that means you're not choosing to judge. If you're choosing to participate, that means you're not choosing to manipulate. So these are things that we must consider. We're always making a choice. We're always making a choice. So that's all I have to say, though, y'all. Carolina Kid out.